The night was quiet, the kind of quiet that made you feel like the world had stopped spinning. Jake leaned back against the tree stump, his flashlight casting long shadows across the forest floor. Beside him, Lily sat cross-legged, her phone in hand, scrolling through pictures from earlier in the day. The two of them had decided to spend the weekend camping, far away from the noise and chaos of the city. It was supposed to be a peaceful escape, but neither of them expected what was about to happen. "Do you hear that?" Jake asked suddenly, his voice low. He tilted his head, listening intently. At first, there was nothing but the rustling of leaves in the breeze. Then came a faint hum, almost like the sound of electricity buzzing through wires. It wasn't loud, but it was enough to make both of them freeze. Lily looked up from her phone, her brow furrowing. "What is that?" "I don't know," Jake replied, standing up slowly. He grabbed the flashlight and pointed it toward the sky. At first, all he could see were the stars twinkling above the treetops. But then something moved. A dark shape, drifting silently across the heavens. It wasn't an airplane. It didn't have blinking lights or make any noise. Whatever it was, it seemed to hover for a moment before descending lower, almost as if it were scanning the ground below. "That a UFO?" Lily whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief. Jake didn't answer. Instead, he took a step forward, his heart pounding in his chest. The object grew closer, its outline becoming clearer. It was sleek and smooth, with no visible seams or windows. The surface shimmered faintly, reflecting the moonlight in strange patterns. As it descended further, the humming grew louder, vibrating in their ears like a swarm of bees. "Should we run?" Lily asked, clutching her phone tightly. "No way," Jake said, shaking his head. "This is insane. We can't just leave." Before Lily could argue, the object stopped moving, hovering just above the trees. A bright light shot out from its underside, illuminating the forest in an eerie glow. Jake shielded his eyes, squinting, as he tried to make sense of what he was seeing. The beam of light swept across the ground, pausing briefly before settling on a patch of earth a few dozen yards away. "Come on," Jake said, grabbing Lily's arm. "Let's get closer." "Are you crazy?" Lily hissed, trying to pull away. But Jake was already moving, his curiosity outweighing his fear. Reluctantly, she followed, staying close behind him as they crept through the underbrush. When they reached the edge of the clearing, they stopped and crouched down behind a fallen log. From this vantage point, they could see the source of the light more clearly. The object, it was definitely some kind of ship, had extended a long mechanical arm toward the ground. At the end of the arm was a small device, which appeared to be collecting samples of soil and plants. Every few seconds, the device would emit a soft whirring sound and a small compartment would open to store whatever it had gathered. "It's taking stuff," Lily murmured, her voice barely audible. "Why is it doing that?" "I don't know," Jake replied, his eyes glued to the scene unfolding before them. "But it doesn't look friendly." As they watched, something unexpected happened. A raccoon emerged from the bushes, its beady eyes fixed on the alien machine. For a moment, it simply stood there sniffing the air. Then, without warning, it darted forward, leaping onto the device with surprising speed. The raccoon clawed at the metal casing, tearing at wires and sensors with its sharp little hands. "What the—" Jake started to say, but he was cut off as sparks began flying from the device. The mechanical arm jerked violently, trying to shake off the furry intruder, but the raccoon held on tight. Finally, with a loud crackle, the device short-circuited and fell to the ground, smoking and lifeless. The ship responded immediately. The light snapped off and the arm retracted quickly, disappearing into the hull of the craft. For a moment, everything was still. Then, with a sudden burst of speed, the ship ascended into the sky, vanishing into the clouds above. Jake and Lily stared at each other, their mouths hanging open in shock. Neither of them spoke for several seconds, too stunned to process what they had just witnessed. "Did that really just happen?" Lily finally managed to ask. "I think so," Jake replied, his voice tinged with awe. "That raccoon totally wrecked their thing." But why? What was it even doing here? Jake shook his head. I don't know. But I think we should figure it out. Lily hesitated, glancing nervously at the spot where the ship had been. You mean, investigate? Yeah, Jake said, standing up. We've got proof now. That thing left something behind. Maybe we can find out what it was. Reluctantly, Lily nodded and followed him as they made their way to the crash site. When they arrived, they found the remains of the alien device lying in a heap on the ground. Bits of wiring and shattered components were scattered around. Along with tufts of raccoon fur, the smell of burnt plastic lingered in the air. This is insane, Lily muttered, poking at one of the pieces with a stick. What do we even do with this? We take it with us, Jake said firmly. If anyone can figure out what it is, it's probably someone smarter than us. Lily raised an eyebrow. And who exactly is that? Jake grinned. I don't know yet, but we'll find someone. As they gathered up the pieces of the broken device, neither of them noticed the pair of glowing eyes watching them from the shadows. Somewhere deep in the forest, another raccoon stirred, its instincts telling it that something strange and potentially dangerous was happening. Unbeknownst to Jake and Lily, the events of this night were only the beginning of something much bigger, something that would change the fate of Earth forever. The next morning, Jake and Lily woke up to the sound of birds chirping. The forest seemed peaceful again, as if nothing unusual had happened the night before. But when they looked at the pile of alien debris they had collected, reality came rushing back. They were sitting on something big, something that could change everything they thought they knew about the world. We need to figure out what to do with this, Lily said, brushing dirt off her jeans. She glanced around nervously, half expecting another spaceship to descend from the sky at any moment. I told you, Jake replied, stuffing a piece of the broken device into his backpack. We find someone who can help us understand it, someone smart. Like who? A scientist? We don't even know any scientists. Jake shrugged. We'll figure it out. Maybe we can go online or something. There's got to be people out there who study weird stuff like this. Lily didn't look convinced, but she didn't argue either. Instead, she grabbed her phone and started recording a video of the debris. If nothing else, we should document this, just in case. Good idea, Jake said, nodding. But let's not post it yet, not until we know more. As they packed up their campsite, neither of them noticed the faint hum growing louder in the distance. High above the trees, the Zorathian ship was scanning the area again. Krelt, the leader of the alien expedition, paced back and forth across the command deck, frustration etched on his face. His crew had lost contact with multiple drones deployed across Earth, each one vanishing without explanation. Now he was determined to get answers. Send a team down to investigate, Krelt ordered, his voice sharp. Find out what happened to the drone in this region, and bring me results. A group of Zorathian soldiers quickly prepared for deployment. Their suits shimmered with an otherworldly glow, designed to protect them from Earth's unpredictable environment. Armed with advanced weapons and tools, they boarded a small shuttle and descended toward the forest where Jake and Lily had spent the night. Back on the ground, the teenagers were hiking back toward their car when they heard the unmistakable sound of engines roaring overhead. They froze, looking up just in time to see the shuttle touch down in a nearby clearing. Without hesitation, Jake grabbed Lily's arm and pulled her behind a thick tree trunk. What are we doing? Lily whispered, her voice trembling. Shh, Jake hissed, peeking out cautiously. Through the branches, he could see figures stepping out of the shuttle. They weren't human. Their bodies were tall and slender, with elongated limbs and smooth gray skin. Their eyes glowed faintly, scanning the surroundings with cold efficiency. They're here, Jake breathed, his heart racing. They're actually here. The aliens moved methodically, examining the ground where their drone had crashed. One of them knelt down, picking up a fragment of the destroyed device. Another scanned the area with a handheld instrument, its screen flashing with strange symbols. For a moment, it seemed like they hadn't noticed anything unusual. But then, movement caught their attention. A squirrel darted out from the bushes, chittering loudly. It stopped a few feet away, staring at the aliens with wide, curious eyes. One of the soldiers raised his weapon, aiming it at the tiny creature. Before he could fire, the squirrel lunged forward, leaping onto the barrel of the gun. With incredible speed, it gnawed at the metal, causing sparks to fly. "What is that thing?" another soldier exclaimed, backing away. More animals began to appear. Birds swooping down from the trees, foxes emerging from the underbrush, even a skunk waddling out of the shadows. The creatures surrounded the aliens, closing in with surprising coordination. The soldiers tried to fend them off, swinging their weapons and firing warning shots into the air, but the animals kept coming. "Retreat!" one of the soldiers shouted, panic rising in his voice. "We need to leave now." The aliens scrambled back toward their shuttle, pursued by a wave of furry attackers. As the engines roared to life and the craft lifted off the ground, Jake and Lily watched from their hiding spot, stunned by what they had just seen. Did those animals just fight them off? Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It looks like it," Jake replied, shaking his head in disbelief. "This is insane." By the time they reached their car, the sun was high in the sky. Jake dumped the alien debris onto the back seat while Lily uploaded the videos they had taken to her laptop. As soon as they had cell service, she uploaded one of the clips to social media, tagging it with hashtags like "dire aliens" and "dire space invaders." Within minutes, the video went viral. People all over the world began sharing stories of similar encounters. In Canada, a family reported seeing a pack of wolves attacking a glowing orb in their backyard. In Australia, kangaroos were filmed chasing down a strange metallic object. Even house pets were getting involved. Cats shredding alien probes, dogs barking furiously at hovering crafts, and parrots mimicking eerie sounds emitted by unidentified machines. The phenomenon wasn't limited to wild animals either. Farmers claimed their livestock had turned aggressive, charging at anything that resembled extraterrestrial technology. Entire ecosystems seemed to be rallying together, united by some unseen force against the invaders. News outlets picked up the story, speculations running rampant. Some experts suggested the animals were responding to pheromones or frequencies emitted by the aliens. Others believed it was a form of collective intelligence, a natural defense mechanism triggered by the presence of an unknown threat. Whatever the reason, it was clear that Earth's wildlife was putting up a fight unlike anything humanity had ever witnessed. Jake and Lily found themselves at the center of the chaos. Reporters called nonstop, begging for interviews. Scientists reached out asking for samples of the debris. Governments issued statements urging calm while secretly scrambling to understand the situation. Amidst all the noise, one name stood out, a young researcher named Emily Carter. Emily specialized in animal behavior and had been studying the effects of environmental changes on wildlife populations. When she saw Jake and Lily's video, she immediately recognized the potential significance of their discovery. She contacted them through social media, introducing herself and offering her expertise. "We need to meet," Emily wrote in her message. "I think I can explain what's happening, but I'll need your help." Jake and Lily exchanged a glance. "Do you trust her?" Lily asked. "She seems legit," Jake replied. "And honestly, we could use someone who knows what they're talking about." They agreed to meet Emily at a cafe in town later that evening. When she arrived, she carried a laptop filled with data and theories. Her demeanor was calm but intense, her eyes lighting up as she explained her ideas. "The animals are reacting to something specific," Emily said, pulling up graphs and charts. "It's possible the aliens are emitting signals, sound waves, electromagnetic pulses, or even chemical markers that trigger aggression in certain species. If we can identify those signals, we might be able to amplify them." "You mean use it against them?" Jake asked, leaning forward. "Exactly," Emily replied with a nod. "Turn Earth's entire ecosystem into a weapon, but we'll need to act fast. If the aliens figure out how to counteract it, we're in trouble." For the first time since the invasion began, Jake and Lily felt a flicker of hope. They didn't fully understand the science behind Emily's plan, but they trusted her passion and determination. Together, the three of them devised a strategy to test her theory, using makeshift equipment and whatever resources they could scrounge up. As night fell, They set out to implement their plan, knowing the stakes were higher than ever. The aliens weren't just visitors, they were invaders, and Earth space gremlins were ready to fight back. Jake, Lily, and Emily worked late into the night, piecing together a plan that felt equal parts genius and reckless. Their makeshift lab was set up in Emily's garage, cluttered with wires, speakers, and old computers. The air smelled of burnt coffee and frustration, but none of them complained. They were too focused on their mission. "So let me get this straight," Jake said, scratching his head as he looked at the tangled mess of equipment. "We're going to broadcast some kind of signal that makes animals freak out?" "Not just any signal," Emily corrected him, adjusting the dials on an old radio transmitter. "It's based on the frequencies we think the aliens are using. If we amplify it, we can trigger a stronger response from the animals. Think of it like turning up the volume." "And you're sure this will work?" Lily asked, her arms crossed as she leaned against the workbench. She still wasn't entirely convinced they weren't about to make things worse. "I'm not sure of anything," Emily admitted, her tone serious. "But if we don't try, the aliens might figure out how to stop the animals from attacking them. Right now we have the upper hand. We need to use it." Jake nodded slowly, glancing at the pile of alien debris they'd brought with them. "Okay, so what do we do first?" Emily handed him a small device that looked like a modified walkie-talkie. "Take this. It's programmed to emit the frequency we think is causing the reaction. Test it near some wildlife. See if it works." "Wait. You want us to go out there right now?" Lily asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes," Emily replied firmly. "The sooner we know if this works, the better. And don't worry. I'll stay here and keep tweaking the main system." Jake grabbed his backpack and motioned for Lily to follow him. "Let's go. The quicker we get this done, the quicker we can come back and fix whatever goes wrong." The two teenagers drove to a nearby park, where squirrels darted between trees and birds chirped noisily overhead. It seemed like the perfect place to test the device. Jake held the walkie-talkie-like gadget in his hand, hesitating for a moment, before pressing the button. At first, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the animals began to react. A squirrel froze mid-leap, its tail puffing up as it turned toward the source of the sound. Birds took off from their perches, squawking loudly. Even a stray dog lounging under a bench stood up, barking furiously. "It's working," Lily whispered, her eyes wide with amazement. "They're freaking out." "Yeah, but not enough," Jake muttered, frowning. He pressed the button again, holding it down longer this time. The reaction was immediate. Squirrels scurried in every direction, chittering angrily. Birds dove toward the ground, flapping their wings wildly. The stray dog barked even louder, its hackles raised as it paced back and forth. "This is insane," Lily said, taking a step back. "What happens when we use this on the aliens?" Jake grinned. "Let's hope it's worse than this." Back at the garage, Emily was busy fine-tuning the larger version of the device. When Jake and Lily returned, she barely looked up from her work. "Did it work?" she asked without preamble. "Yeah," Jake replied, tossing the handheld device onto the table. "It definitely got their attention, but I don't think it's strong enough to take down an alien ship. That's why we're building this," Emily said, gesturing to the bulky machine in front of her. It looked like a cross between a sound system and a satellite dish, with wires snaking out in all directions. "This should be powerful enough to cover a much larger area. If we aim it right, we can draw in animals from miles around." "But won't that put them in danger?" Lily asked, frowning. "I mean, those aliens have weapons." Emily paused, considering the question. "Yes, it will, but the animals seem to know what they're doing. Look at what they've already done. They've taken out drones, chased soldiers, and caused chaos wherever the aliens show up. They're fighting back because they feel threatened. All we're doing is giving them a little extra push." Jake nodded. "And if it helps protect Earth, then it's worth it." By dawn, the trio had finished assembling the device. They loaded it into the back of Emily's van and drove to a secluded hilltop overlooking the forest, where the aliens had landed earlier. From this vantage point, they could see the glowing outline of the Zarathian ship hovering above the treetops. "Are you ready for this?" Emily asked, double-checking the connections on the machine. "As ready as we'll ever be," Jake replied, his voice steady, despite the nervous energy coursing through him. Lily stood beside them, clutching her phone. "Should we record this, in case something goes wrong?" "Good idea," Emily said, nodding. "Just in case." With everything in place, Emily flipped the switch. At first, there was only silence. Then a low hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. The ground vibrated faintly and the leaves on the trees rustled as though stirred by an invisible wind. In the distance, movement began. Birds erupted from the forest canopy, flying in tight formations toward the alien ship. Squirrels poured out of the woods, their tiny bodies moving with surprising speed. Deer bounded across open fields, followed by foxes and raccoons. Even insects joined the charge, swarming in dark clouds that blotted out the sunlight. "What is happening?" Lily whispered, her voice trembling with awe. "They're coming," Jake said, his eyes fixed on the scene unfolding below. "All of them." The Zorathians reacted quickly, deploying drones and sending out patrols to investigate the sudden influx of wildlife. But no matter how many creatures they tried to fend off, more kept coming. Birds pecked at sensors, squirrels chewed through wiring, and deer rammed into landing gear with surprising force. Inside the ship, Krelt watched the chaos unfold with growing alarm. His crew scrambled to contain the situation, but it was clear they were losing control. "We need to retreat," he shouted, slamming his fist against the console. "This planet is hostile beyond comprehension." As the aliens prepared to withdraw, Emily adjusted the frequency on the machine, amplifying the signal even further. The effect was immediate. Animals surged forward with renewed intensity, overwhelming the alien forces. One by one, the drones fell, their systems crippled by gnawed wires and claw marks. Soldiers retreated, abandoning their posts as waves of furry attackers closed in. On the hilltop, Jake, Lily, and Emily watched in stunned silence as the Zorathian ship began to ascend. Its engines roared to life, and within moments, it disappeared into the sky, leaving behind a trail of smoke and confusion. "We did it," Lily said finally, her voice shaking with disbelief. "We actually did it." Jake grinned, slumping against the van. Earth's space gremlins came through. Emily smiled faintly, her expression thoughtful. "For now, we've won, but this isn't over. The aliens will be back, and next time, they'll be ready." Jake nodded, his grin fading slightly. "Then we'll be ready too." The victory was short-lived. While Jake, Lily, and Emily celebrated their success on the hilltop, they knew deep down that the aliens wouldn't give up so easily. The Zorathians were an advanced species, and retreating wasn't something they did lightly. Krelt, the alien leader, had already begun analyzing the situation aboard his ship, determined to understand why Earth's animals had turned into such formidable opponents. "They're not just attacking randomly," Krelt said, pacing back and forth across the command deck. His advisors stood silently, waiting for him to continue. "There's a pattern, a signal. Something is coordinating them." One of the scientists stepped forward, holding a tablet-like device. "We've detected unusual energy readings coming from the planet's surface. It's possible the humans are behind this." Krelt stopped in his tracks, his glowing eyes narrowing. "Humans? Are you telling me those primitive creatures are responsible?" "It's unlikely they could have done it alone," the scientist replied cautiously. "But they may be amplifying whatever natural defenses the animals possess." Krelt clenched his fists, frustration boiling inside him. "Then we neutralize the source, find the humans responsible, and eliminate them." Back on Earth, Jake, Lily, and Emily were trying to figure out their next move. Their makeshift device had worked better than expected, but they knew it was only a matter of time before the aliens returned with a stronger plan. They needed to prepare, and fast. "We should spread the signal," Emily suggested, sketching out a rough map on a piece of paper. "If we can set up multiple transmitters in key locations, we can cover more ground. That way, no matter where the aliens land, they'll face resistance." "Sounds good," Jake said, leaning over to look at the map. "But how do we build more of these things? We barely had enough parts for the first one." "We'll improvise," Emily replied firmly. "We can use old radios, car stereos, anything that can emit sound waves, and we'll need help, lots of it." Lily nodded, pulling out her phone. "I'll start reaching out to people online. There are tons of volunteers who want to help after seeing our videos. Within hours, messages poured in from all over the world. People eager to contribute sent supplies, shared ideas, and even offered their homes as bases of operation. A group of tech-savvy teenagers from Canada helped design a simpler version of the transmitter, while a retired engineer in Australia offered blueprints for a more durable model. By the end of the day, the trio had everything they needed to begin building. The team worked tirelessly, setting up transmitters in forests, fields, and urban areas. Each location was chosen strategically, ensuring maximum coverage. Volunteers pitched in wherever they could, stringing wires, testing frequencies, and monitoring wildlife activity. The effort became a global movement, uniting people from all walks of life under one common goal: protecting Earth. As the days passed, news of the preparations reached the Zorathians. Krelt ordered his crew to launch a series of reconnaissance missions, targeting the locations where the signals originated. But every attempt ended in failure. Birds swarmed their drones, tearing at delicate sensors. Packs of stray dogs chased landing crafts, forcing them to retreat. Even insects proved to be a nuisance, clogging engines and short-circuiting systems. Frustrated but unwilling to admit defeat, Krelt devised a new strategy. Instead of focusing on individual targets, he decided to hit humanity directly. If the humans were amplifying the animals' aggression, then removing them from the equation would solve the problem. "We'll strike at their cities," Krelt announced during a tense meeting with his advisors. "Show them the consequences of interfering." The attack came without warning. A fleet of Zorathian ships descended upon a major city, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts. Buildings crumbled, streets erupted in flames, and panic spread like wildfire. The aliens moved methodically, targeting communication towers, power plants, and military installations. But the humans weren't defenseless. News of the assault spread instantly, thanks to social media and emergency broadcasts. Civilians fled to shelters while volunteer groups sprang into action, using whatever tools they had to fight back. Cars were rigged with makeshift weapons, drones were repurposed as surveillance devices, and even fireworks were used to distract the invaders. Jake, Lily, and Emily watched the chaos unfold from their makeshift headquarters. They had been expecting another attack, but nothing on this scale. "We have to do something," Jake said, his voice tight with urgency. Emily nodded, her mind racing. "We can't let them destroy the cities. We'll use the transmitters to draw the animals toward the ships. It's risky, but it might work." Lily hesitated. "What about the people? Won't the animals attack them too?" "We'll warn everyone to stay indoors," Emily replied. "It's the only way." They quickly contacted local authorities, urging residents to seek shelter and avoid open areas. Meanwhile, they activated the transmitters, broadcasting the amplified signal across the city. Almost immediately, the response was overwhelming. Birds filled the skies, diving at the alien ships. Rats poured out of sewers, chewing through landing gear. Even zoo animals broke free from their enclosures, joining the fray. The Zorathians struggled to maintain control. Their weapons were designed for precision, not for dealing with hordes of unpredictable creatures. Soldiers fired wildly, missing more often than hitting their targets. Drones malfunctioned under the relentless assault, crashing to the ground in bursts of sparks. Krelt watched the disaster unfold from the safety of his flagship. His jaw tightened as he realized the extent of the damage. "Cease operations," he growled, his voice laced with anger. "Retreat to orbit." As the alien ships withdrew, the city fell silent once again. Smoke rose from the ruins and sirens wailed in the distance. But amidst the destruction, there was also hope. The humans had survived, and they had proven that Earth was not an easy target. Jake, Lily, and Emily stood together on a rooftop, watching the last of the ships disappear into the sky. "We did it," Lily said softly, her voice tinged with both relief and sadness. "But at what cost?" Emily sighed, shaking her head. "This isn't over. The aliens will regroup, and when they come back, they'll be stronger. We need to keep preparing." Jake nodded, his expression grim. "Then we'll be ready," no matter what it takes. Below them, the survivors began cleaning up the wreckage, banding together to rebuild what had been lost. Animals roamed freely through the streets, their instincts guiding them to return to their natural habitats. For now, the battle was won, but the war was far from finished. The days that followed the alien attack were filled with both relief and unease. The city was scarred, its streets littered with debris and its skyline marked by crumbling buildings. But despite the destruction, there was a sense of unity among the survivors. People worked together to clear rubble, care for the injured, and rebuild what had been lost. Volunteers from neighboring towns streamed in, bringing food, supplies, and offers of help. It was as if the entire world had come together, bound by a shared purpose. Jake, Lily, and Emily found themselves at the center of this newfound camaraderie. Their actions had inspired countless others, and now they were seen not just as teenagers with a crazy idea, but as leaders in humanity's fight against the invaders. Reporters camped outside their makeshift headquarters, eager for interviews. Scientists and engineers arrived daily, hoping to contribute to their efforts. Even government officials reached out, offering resources and support. But the trio knew better than to let the attention go to their heads. The aliens weren't gone. They had retreated, yes, but only to regroup. And when they returned, they would be stronger, smarter, and more determined than ever. Every moment spent celebrating was a moment wasted. "We need to keep moving," Jake said one evening as the three of them sat around a table cluttered with maps and blueprints. "If we sit here waiting for them to come back, we're dead." Emily nodded, her eyes scanning the papers in front of her. "He's right. We've got the transmitters set up, but they're not enough. We need something bigger, something that can hit them where it hurts." "Like what?" Lily asked, leaning forward. "Another signal? More animals?" "No," Emily replied thoughtfully. "Something technological. Something that can disrupt their ships directly." Jake frowned. "You mean like hacking into their systems or something?" "Exactly," Emily said, a spark of excitement in her voice. "If we can figure out how their technology works, we might be able to create a weapon that disables it. Think about it, a virus, an EMP, anything that messes with their electronics." Lily raised an eyebrow. "That sounds way beyond us. How are we supposed to pull that off?" "We'll figure it out," Emily said firmly. "We've got the alien debris you guys collected. If we can reverse engineer even a small part of it, we might be able to crack their code." Over the next few weeks, the trio threw themselves into the task. They dismantled pieces of the alien device, studying every wire, chip, and circuit board. With the help of volunteers, they conducted experiments, testing different frequencies and energy outputs. Slowly but surely, they began to piece together how the alien technology operated. Meanwhile, the global movement continued to grow. Transmitters were installed in nearly every corner of the planet, creating a network of defenses that spanned continents. Farmers trained their livestock to respond to specific signals, while urban dwellers learned to identify potential landing zones and report suspicious activity. Even pets became part of the effort, with owners teaching their dogs and cats to recognize alien threats. Krelt, aboard his flagship, watched these developments with mounting frustration. His crew had analyzed data from the previous attacks, identifying patterns in human behavior. They discovered that the transmitters were the key to Earth's resistance, a fact that made them a top priority for elimination. "We will target the transmitters first," Krelt declared during a strategy meeting. "Without them, the humans are powerless." "But sir," one of his advisors interjected, "the humans have adapted quickly. They may already anticipate such a move." Krelt glared at him. "Then we must act faster. Deploy all available forces. Destroy the transmitters before they can activate again." The aliens launched their assault under the cover of darkness. Ships descended silently, their glowing hulls blending with the night sky. Teams of soldiers fanned out across the landscape, searching for the source of the signals, but they underestimated the humans' determination. In one location, a group of farmers used tractors to block access roads, buying time for technicians to relocate a transmitter. In another, a team of hackers overloaded the aliens' targeting systems, causing their weapons to malfunction. Birds and bats swarmed the soldiers, disorienting them with loud screeches and sharp claws. Even children joined the fight, using slingshots and homemade traps to slow the invaders. Jake, Lily, and Emily coordinated the resistance from their headquarters, relaying information between teams and adjusting strategies on the fly. When word came that the aliens had located one of their largest transmitters, they sprang into action. "We can't let them destroy it," Emily said, grabbing a backpack filled with tools. "If they take that one out, they'll cut off half the region." "I'll go with you," Jake volunteered immediately. "So will I," Lily added, though her voice betrayed a hint of fear. The three of them raced to the site, arriving just as the aliens began their attack. Soldiers surrounded the transmitter, firing energy blasts at anyone who approached. Emily ducked behind a pile of crates, her mind racing. "We need a distraction." Jake grinned. "Leave that to me." He grabbed a flare gun from his bag and fired it into the air. The bright light caught the attention of nearby wildlife, drawing dozens of birds and squirrels toward the scene. As the animals attacked the soldiers, Emily and Lily sprinted toward the transmitter, working frantically to shield it from damage. Just as the aliens closed in, reinforcements arrived, volunteers armed with whatever weapons they could find. Together, they drove the invaders back, forcing them to retreat. By the time the dust settled, the transmitter was still standing, battered but functional. Back at headquarters, the trio celebrated their narrow victory. But the celebration was short-lived. Krelt, enraged by his force's repeated failures, issued a final ultimatum: surrender or face total annihilation. "This is it," Emily said grimly, holding up a prototype device she had been working on. "Our last chance." The device was small but powerful, designed to emit a pulse capable of disabling alien technology. With the help of volunteers, they smuggled it onto a hill overlooking the aliens' main fleet. As the ships prepared for their final assault, Jake activated the device. A wave of energy rippled outward, invisible but potent. One by one, the alien ships faltered, their engines sputtering and lights flickering. Soldiers collapsed, their suits rendered useless. Krelt stared in disbelief as his flagship powered down, leaving him stranded. "Enough," he shouted, raising his hands in surrender. "We withdraw." The remaining ships fled into space, vanishing from sight. On the ground, cheers erupted, as people realized the battle was finally over. Weeks later, life began to return to normal, or as close to normal as possible. Jake, Lily, and Emily became symbols of hope, their story inspiring generations to come. The transmitters remained, active, a reminder of Earth's resilience. And though the aliens never returned, humanity stayed vigilant, ready to defend itself if the need arose. As Jake and Lily sat by a campfire one night, watching raccoons play in the distance, Lily smiled. "Guess we showed them." "Yeah," Jake replied, grinning. "Earth's space gremlins did good."